Welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. Here we'll talk to the leaders in technology, culture, business, and the arts. We'll cover politics, advocacy, motherhood, writing, mental health, and mostly we'll focus on hope. Join Kim B. Davis, author, playwright, radio personality, event consultant, professional speaker on the Kim B. Davis Show.
Good evening and welcome to the Kim B. Davis Show. I'm your host, Kim B. Davis, and this evening we have a special guest. We have Kai Mann, and let me read all her titles. She is an author. She's the owner at Scribical Vibes Publishing. She's a producer at Elevation Nation Media Group. She is the brand manager at Iology Inc., consultations with Kai Mann, and self-awareness guide at Lifestrology. Good evening, Kai. How are you?
I am wonderful. Good evening. Good evening. Glad to be here.
Good. So I have been fascinated by your journey, and you've sort of been documenting it on social media. So I want to talk about when we take a journey to self-awareness. So that's going to be our topic tonight. And I want you to talk about, first off, what made you decide, with all the things that I read off, as an author, you own your own business, you do consulting, you've done media work, all different types of things. What made you think that there was something, I don't want to say wrong, but was there something off that made you decide, you know what, I got to do a self-check, maybe a self-assessment, and then see what I find, and then you go from there?
Well, Kim, I think that for me, I've always been on this particular journey. So I can even imagine when I was younger, always being the type of person who's always looking inside. So I think with me, I got to a certain level or area in life where it was time to kind of step back and look at myself from a different perspective, especially with all the things that are going on right now. And so I don't know, for the past 5 years, you may have seen me doing some kind of changes. You see me, talking about those different things that are going on. And that's because I believe that as we change and grow, we should be talking about those things. And the more that we talk about those things, other people, when they're going through it as well, they don't feel like they're like the odd man out. So, just always being this person of always seeking for a higher level of spirituality. I say somewhere around 2015, began a journey of really delving more into who it is that I am as a person, and more streamlining what the purpose is.
Excellent. So you mentioned a couple of things. You talked about purpose and you talked about spirituality. And behind you, you have a picture, and correct me if I'm wrong, are those chakras behind you on the picture?
Yes, they are. These are the 7 chakras. Your root chakra, your sacral, your solar plexus, the heart chakra, the throat chakra, the third eye, and the crown chakra. Yes.
And so for people who aren't familiar with what that word means, can you give us a definition of what chakras are?
Well, chakras are basically the meridian points in our body. And when those meridian points, or what we would consider as chakras, Hindu, Buddhism type of thing, when they are not in alignment, you're off. You're off spiritually, physically, mentally. You're just out of balance. But once you are able to have those chakras or the meridian points within your body all in alignment, you begin to function better. Certain areas, as you see, certain areas represent certain meridian points. And those particular meridian points, when they're closed or out of balance, it's hard for us, like our throat chakra, to be able to speak, to say those things that need to be said. The third eye chakra, being able to go behind the veil and see certain things that most people don't see. Your root chakra, If your root chakra is not in alignment, you're like out of balance, period. There's nothing else going on throughout the rest of the chakras. The first one that has to be balanced is the root chakra, and that's all about your foundation and all about, home, your home life, your home life as a child, your home life as an adult. And if those things are out of whack, everything else is out of whack.
So let me say, yes, you did. So let me say this to you. So we have this disease called COVID that just won't go away, right?
Mhm.
And so we have been shut down in various periods of sheltering in place. Wherever you are, people have been teleworking from home. Certain things have just opened up. People were encouraged to not travel. And the one thing that I have been saying while we've been in this pandemic is that a lot of people have, what I see is that people have seen in the pandemic, ooh, is this what my life is? Is this what this relationship is? Is this all my job is? Things are out of balance because everybody's at home and everyone's on top of each other. And therapists, have been saying, as a family, you need to work to find ways to do things that bring you joy, that allow you space from each other. And a lot of people are realizing that some of the decisions that they've made in life, they're like, I need to work on some things. So when you talk about the foundation, I think it's very important because, and we'll get into this later, but I just saw you drinking tea and I know you are an avid tea drinker.
Yes, I am.
And that's not a bad thing. But there's a reason why people say it is important to pay attention to what you eat, to what you digest into your body through your eyes, what you see, what you pay attention to, what you listen to, because all of those things pour into your spirit. I know we sort of get caught up in this notion that we are flesh and blood, and we are, but at our core, we're spiritual beings. And so when you were talking about spiritual, a lot of people use that term and sort of define it and say different things. So tell me, what does spiritual mean to you?
For me, spiritual or having the notion of being this spiritual being, it is all about alignment for me. It's all about connecting all of the dots. It's all about making sure that my connection to source, first and foremost, is where it needs to be, because that helps to guide me in my day-to-day life. It's all about how I eat. It's all about my intuition, my being intuitive in the way that I eat. It's all about my body and how I choose to exercise it, yoga or whatever. It's all about the spiritual being of the soul, actually caring for the soul, to me, is what it means.
Mm-hmm. Excellent definition. Thank you for that. So now I want to talk a little bit about food. And I have seen a couple of memes on social media, which I thought were very telling. And that people say, if you're eating fast food, not anything that is healthy, but things that are overly processed, then of course we see the increased rates of obesity, diabetes, heart disease. And some of the things that you're talking about when you talk about eating healthy and being intentional in what you physically eat aids you not only physically, but spiritually. Can you talk a little bit about that?
Yes, yes. First and foremost, whatever it is that you ingest, be it food, be it, earlier you talked about, what it is that you watch, what you hear, all of these different things, your environment makes up who you are, basically, physically, and all the other levels as well. But the things that we really put in our mouth as far as food, it is basically what we call information, right? So the food that we have, that we put inside of us, is information. It tells us to either be sick or be healthy. There's only two things that you could be either healthy or you could be sick, you know. And so what the information does when you're eating healthy, the minerals, all the vitamins, everything goes to each part of the body that it needs to. It feeds the mind, it feeds the spirit, it feeds everything in asset in the aspect of you being able to function on a healthy level and not walk in a toxic or toxic environment. And your body is an environment. So when you're not eating healthy, you're taking in all types of things, even music, even certain television shows, you know, certain news, you know, things of that nature, as well as eating, you know, those foods that are fast, you know, as we're running around trying to grab something to eat, those things have an effect on us as well. A lot of the stuff that we eat is not even real food. A lot of it is like made in a lab. So, you know, you're eating these things that are not even really food, is not really nourishing your body at all. So as your body is not being nourished, your mind is not being nourished as well. So if your mind is not, or your brain, excuse me, your brain is not, you know, nourished, you can't think properly. So how is it that you can, you know, be a healthy being? How is it that you can think healthy thoughts? How is it that you can be a healthy person if you're not putting good food in your body so that you can give your brain the nourishment that it needs, and all of your organs the nourishment that it needs? Because if anything happens to where this vessel is needed, if you're not eating healthy, your vessel can't be used. So, you know, we're going through things that, as far as the COVID, you spoke about that earlier, and having, having, you know, people around you that have COVID, if you're not eating healthy, you know, you're bound to get it as well, you know. But when you're eating healthy, your mind's healthy, you're in a state of being productive, you're not in a state of fear and you know, ingesting all of these, like what we would consider to be negative emotions. You're not easily susceptible to different things that happen, you know, as far as, you know, diseases and, you know, just the energy that's even in the air itself, you know.
Okay, so you just brought up a good point. So energy, and I want to talk about energy in news, energy in television, you know, different shows, or, you know, whether it's a documentary or a biography, or just your favorite show that you want to binge watch. And even in terms of music, because we talk about energy. And I've had this conversation with fellow guests before where I said, you know, during this whole pandemic, and I know we have this trial going on in the Derek Chauvin murder trial, I have been tuning in. I know a lot of people have said, I can't watch it, it's traumatizing. I said, it is. I said, however, for me, that is something that interests me and I wanted to watch it. I said, but I monitor how much I actually watch, because when I get to the point where I'm like, okay, I'm at my tipping point, because now it's starting to bring me down, we have to turn it off. I need to do something else. Can you talk about, because we seemed, especially during the pandemic, and we've seen it and we've heard it, the whole Netflix and chill and everybody's binge watching. And I keep telling people TV habits have changed, and we'll see what happens after the pandemic is officially over, if television will go back to the way that it was, or will we get to a point where people will just watch a show without commercials?
Well, let's talk about one thing when we talk about energy. So everything that is around us, be it the television shows, you know, music, we talked about all these different things, the news, everything that's happening around us has a particular intention. A lot of the shows that we watch, the energy surrounding that is of a programming type of energy, where you're being programmed to, you know, we laugh about it and we don't realize it while we say it. I've said it, you know, most of my life too. I got to watch my programs, you know. What's happening, I'm being programmed. I'm sitting in you know, in front of something, plugging into it and allowing it to change my mind. I'm allowing it to change, you know, the atmosphere within my body by what's happening going on within that particular program. And so when we think about those things as far as being able to be programmed, the types of energy that happens, the type of fear, the all of the negative aspects that we can consider negative aspects within these particular type of programs, it is the way that we deal in some aspects. Some people use it, to be able to be okay. Some people use it, so that they can see if everyone else is okay. But I think the main thing is being able to understand what it does to you, what it does for you. What is it doing to your mind? What is it doing to your body? If on an individual level, you can, look at how these particular programs are affecting you and saying, as you do, that's enough for me. I can't say everybody has a particular level of balance, and that balance may not be the same as what balance is for me. So me, I don't watch any of that. I don't watch any of it. I can't watch any of it. I'm a very emotional person. So if I'm watching that all the time, I'm not in a good place. So I can't do that. I literally cannot do that. I have very much empathy for the world and things that are going on, but I believe that everything that is going on because it's supposed to be going on at this particular space. So I tend to look at it a little bit differently. The whole energy and aspect of being programmed and not being able to unlearn the things that are going on around us and consistently perpetuating it over and over and over and over and over again is basically what the program or the loop is for. It's not for us to be able to move into different spaces where your thinking is more enlightened. You're more in tune with what's going on in the environment. You know that you should be turning left instead of right because you can feel the energy and you know how to flow with what's going on. So I don't know, did I answer anything?
You did. No, you did, because I think it's important. There's a few things that I have noticed during this pandemic. The rates of depression are up. Everybody's talking about it. Lots of people are talking about how much weight they gain. That is a real concern for many people because many of us were told to shelter at home. You couldn't go to the gym. If you went to the grocery store, that was probably all you could do. You couldn't go to a restaurant. You couldn't go to a movie theater. You weren't able to go shopping or do any of those things that maybe you can move around and do a little bit more or even practice some healthier habits. And so a lot of people are feeling anxious and are feeling depressed. And so many people have turned to television. And, I don't know about you. I don't even have to go on television. I could just go to Netflix and I've got like a whole list of stuff that I just watch. And, you start watching something and you're like, oh, that episode was good.
Right.
Okay, I'm gonna watch one more and then I'm gonna go to bed. And then the next thing you know, I'm episode 5. I just did that with a new series that came out and it was like 2:00 in the morning. I was like, I should be ashamed of myself. I have to get up in the morning. What is wrong with me? But it was good. And I said, I enjoyed it. And I got to a certain point and I said, okay, I've got to go to bed. But you have people who, as you said, are using it as a method or a way to comfort themselves instead of checking in to see if other people are okay. They're using it as a soothing device. And what happens is, and this is a transparent moment. So years ago, I used to watch Real Housewives, the franchise. And it was when the Atlanta Housewives was already out and I started watching the New York Housewives and I really liked them. But I realized that after watching it after a while, I would just be angry. And I was like, why am I angry? Because they were always fighting. And I was getting drawn into the storyline and just different things. And I was just like, okay, enough is enough. This is just too much. And I think for some people that does happen. For
Mhm.
other people, it doesn't. They can just watch it and not. But for some of us, we get drawn into that. And then it travels with you in real life when you go out and you meet people, and that whole attitude or behavior that you saw exhibited comes with you, and then you look at yourself and you're like, well, where did that come from? What am I doing? What would you say to someone who's struggling with that?
Well, the first thing that I would say is I'm going to give you a couple different things or different ways of looking at it. When I
Okay.
talk about balance, balance to me can be anything. As long as you're getting to the place of equality, even though the numbers might be 80-20. Um,
Mm-hmm.
a lot of people don't realize that sometimes your brain, your body, everything needs a break. And sometimes when we don't understand how to give ourselves a break, um,
Mm-hmm.
the intuitive side or the higher self of us begins to kind of step into place and say, look, you need a break. We always want to look at binge watching a show as horrible. It's the most horrible thing you can do. You shouldn't be doing that. There's other things that you can be doing. Well, it is, but sometimes you have gone to the extreme of doing all those other things so much that now the opposite of the extreme is doing the binge watching the whole show. You know what I'm
Mm-hmm.
saying? The whole series.
Mm-hmm.
So
Mm-hmm.
in that particular aspect, that's balance. You've been to this particular end. Now it's time to go to this particular end. It's a space of balance.
Okay.
Some people, for them, it may not be balance. It may be a mental space of them not understanding that there is so much, or actually a response to so much going on to that they shut down. And shutting
Mm-hmm.
down for them is watching a whole series in 4 hours or however long it takes to actually do that.
Mm-hmm.
So you get into these different spaces, and to be able to tell someone that, they would have to be able to understand where they fit on that particular scale.
Mm-hmm.
Why am I doing this? Why am I binge watching, this show? Everything that we've said, we've gone to this particular space of saying that, it's a bad thing or it's a negative thing. We have to stop looking at stuff like that. It's not even about bad and good, right and wrong. It's really not about that. It's about why, finding out the why of why I'm doing this particular thing and saying, okay, so I know that I'm doing this because I need a break. And, you know, these next 12 hours, this is what I'm going to do. This is the break. This is the self-care that I'm giving myself. And you're not looking at the particular show as it's affecting you in any particular way that you're going to be negative. You know what I'm saying? It's
Mm-hmm.
not affecting you in the particular way that, you're going to take on the world because you're upset and you're angry. It could be that you've binge watched that, and maybe you've gotten an idea from that particular space. You know what
Mm-hmm.
I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that you got from out of that space to do whatever it was that you needed, I mean, whatever it is that you're getting ready to do, obviously you needed that time.
Mm-hmm.
you
Mm-hmm.
know so it's the way that we begin to look at things. If we look at things as always right and wrong or good and bad, instead of seeing the benefits of whatever it is that we're doing. Now, I'm not talking about somebody just binge watching TV for forever now and saying, well, this is my balance.
I didn't think that that's what you were saying. And just to add a caveat to my story, the reason that I started watching the Real Housewives franchise, I had a very busy job at that time, and I was traveling a lot. And so when I sat down, I didn't want to watch something where I had to think about a plot, had to figure something out. For me, it was mindless television. And it was funny at first, and I would laugh and go, "Oh, they're so stupid. What are they doing?" But then it got to a point where it began to negatively impact me. And I realized, and I was like, I'm not gonna watch this anymore because this isn't setting well in my spirit. I knew that. And so that was, the reason that I stopped watching that. But I want to go back to something that I mentioned, we talk a lot about speaking. So we talk about what we put physically into our mouths to nourish our body. What about the words that we speak to other people? Because I always say this, we should always be kind to one another. We never know what people are going through. You know, our words can nourish someone emotionally and spiritually. Would you agree with that statement, or am I off base?
No, I agree with that. I agree wholeheartedly that we do have to watch our words. A lot of times the things that and I'm gonna take this back a step. But the only way that you really can watch your words is because you're being intentional about who it is that you are, right? So when you want to be intentional about being a high vibrational being, or being nice to the people that are in my space, being kind to them, um, all of that has to do with me. It has nothing to do with them and who it is that they are. It has everything to do with me. So if I'm being intentional about being good to other people because I want good things to happen to me, then I'm going to always, be in a space of being kind to other people.
Mhm.
Most people, don't really think about that. We usually think about that from the aspect of, putting it off on the other person. Well, when we do that, when we tend to put that off on the other person, then that also means that when they go off on us, we can, use them or blame them for why we just went off on them, or whatever the case may be. So if
Mhm.
you keep it, within the self and how it is that you feel about yourself and how you feel that you want to treat other people, then no one else's responses or their actions can persuade you to do anything that's different, because it has nothing to do with them and everything to do with you.
Mhm. So we talked, that's a great point. We talked about the root chakra, and you talked about how that is the foundation for everything in your body and in your spirit. What happens when we have negative thoughts, or we have inner dialogue that speaks negatively against ourselves? How do we work around that and speaking kindness into ourselves? What would your advice be in terms of dealing with energy and making sure that we're balanced and healthy and whole?
Well, the first thing I have to ask you is, what is it that you want for your life? You
Mm.
know, when you decide what it is that you want for your life, most people will say, I want to have a good life, but they don't know what that looks like.
Mhm.
So if you want to have a good life, you have to have a picture, or be able to envision what that looks like. Because if you don't, there's no way that you can get there. Your words to yourself are always going to be that you can't get there. The words to yourself will always be negative. The words to yourself will always be something that would be contradictory to what it is that you say that you want. you
Mhm.
know
Mhm.
so the first thing you have to do is to be able to see that you can have a better life and that you deserve a better life. And once you're able to see that particular aspect, or even get to the point of wanting to see it. Some people can't. They been through a lot in their lives. They've had people tell them that they are the worst of the worst and that they won't ever amount to anything. A lot of people have had a lot of things go on with them. But if I can get them to see that the things that those people were saying to them, or the feelings that they were trying to impress upon them, were not the feelings of theirs. The
Mhm.
feelings were the people, their own feelings.
Mhm.
And so when you begin to look at people in that particular way, when you realize that people have their own things, and that whatever their thing is doesn't have to be your thing,
Mhm.
then you can understand the power that you have within your own self. You begin to be able to believe so much in yourself that you know that you deserve everything that's the best for you, and for those that you love. And so the only way to begin to really walk into that aspect is to be able to see that, and to be able to understand that you're way more powerful than anything that you can ever imagine. And the funny part about this is most people know it. They say this Bible verse all the time, but they
Mhm.
don't really understand it. If Jesus is saying that, that you will do greater things than I will do, why aren't you doing them? You know what I'm saying? Why aren't you doing them? You
Mm-hmm.
know, you have the potential to do it. You know, it's already in you to do it. But
Mm-hmm.
whatever this slave mentality, whatever this you know, this low vibrational thinking that is hanging within the air, that's allowing you to not know your power, to, you know, allow you, you know, not to know who the heck that you are, then you're going to stay in that particular space.
Mm-hmm. Woo, you said a mouthful. So I just want to piggyback because I've been telling my sons something very similar since they both were very small. When they were struggling with, Mommy, my friend was mean to me. And I would say, well, who is this person? Tell me what happened. And so we talk about it. And I would say, well, how do you feel about it? And they would say, it made me sad or it made me angry. And I don't want to be friends with this person anymore. I said, well, you don't have to. And they would look at me strange, like, I don't have to be friend. I know you absolutely do not. If they were mean to you, you don't. And I said, and even more so than that, what they said tells you more about them than it does you. Because my
Mhm.
sons would always say, well, Mommy, they said I'm stupid. But I know my ABC. This is like a real conversation. I know my ABCs, and I'm like, because you're not. I said that was their issue, not yours. They were telling you about their own fears that they had, and they were trying to put it on you. And so, a lot of times when you talk about low vibrational thinking, it's because people are stuck or stagnant. Correct me if I'm wrong, stuck or stagnant in a particular place within themselves. And then they are pushing that same belief onto you
Mhm.
because either they see something in you that they desire to be, or they see something in you that threatens them.
Mhm.
Would you agree with that, or am I off?
I agree. I agree, and it's usually the latter thing, because a
Mhm,
lot of people have had the experience of people telling them that they can't be great, that
mhm,
they'll never be great, or whatever the case may be. So they now, you know, inflict that on you.
mhm,
And so, and having that particular space of it now inflicting it on you, but also being able to see, you know, you doing something that I wish that I could do, but I can't do it because they told me that I never amount to anything. And so they go
mhm,
through this cycle, you know,
mhm,
of back and forth with that particular thing, and they become the, you know, they get stuck in that area, you know.
mhm,
And it's hard. It's a repetition that has been something that has been going on for, you know, years in their life, no matter how old that they are. They could be 7 years old, but if they've been, you know, the bulk of their life have been, you know, told all these negative things about themselves which aren't true, you
mhm,
know, when they see somebody else who's able to do something more, they're going to be triggered by that,
mhm, mhm. That's
you
a great
know.
point. That is a great
Mhm.
point.
Be triggered.
So we're talking about triggers and how people react to things. So again, I said, we're dealing with COVID, we're dealing with pandemic, numbers are rising, especially here in Michigan. How do you find your center or recenter yourself if something chaotic or something throws you off balance? Or do you get thrown off balance? Kai, are you at that point where you are like, I am super centered, nothing throws me off balance? I'm like, if you are, tell us the secret.
No way, I wish. No, I am not. I think for me, again, the way that I look at things are a lot different from most people. So
Mhm,
the thing with the COVID, a lot of people see it as, oh, you know, and again, please understand, I have a lot of empathy for people in the situation that is going on. But at the
mhm,
same time, I understand what's really going on underneath the surface of all of
mhm,
it. And so
mhm,
when I said, actually, I said to someone about a year ago, a year
mhm,
before COVID hit, I said
mhm,
that um, that I feel like there's getting ready to be a cleansing. There's getting ready to be something major that's gonna happen. I feel
mhm,
like in order for the world to be, or the universe to begin, or the earth to begin to evolve, other things had to die off in order to do so. So those,
mhm,
and and I look at things, Kim, on so many different levels. I look at
Mhm.
that as a physical level too, meaning
Mhm.
certain people have to be gone, certain thinking, had to be gone. And then I
Mhm.
also look at it as certain behaviors had to be gone as well.
Mhm.
Um, so when I look at COVID, I look at it as the sudden changes that come in because we have um how the planets are lined up at the particular time, that when it's time to make this particular change, it does it
Mhm.
suddenly. It
Mhm.
does it suddenly. It begins to, dig up all the roots. It begins to take everything out. And right now it seems like it's so chaotic. It seems like, oh God, everything is happening tomorrow. It's going to be, the world is going to end and all this other stuff. But those particular actions, that particular chaotic type of change happens to bring about a better world, happens to bring about a new way of doing things. It brings
Mhm.
about so much change that is drastic, it's sudden, but if it were slow, no one would feel it and they wouldn't really change.
Mhm.
Okay.
Mhm.
So in order
Mhm.
for there to be change, we have to be sat down. We have to be, in a space where we've not been with our family members. And now we got to look in their faces 24 hours a day. We didn't really like them to begin with, but now we got to deal with them. You know what I'm saying? So it brings about a
Mhm.
space of new, as we evolve as a people, we have to go back into our lives, and we got to look at some of the behavior that we have, some of the things that we're doing, the things that we've been saying that we want to do but couldn't do because we're so busy. Now that you
Mhm.
have the opportunity to do those things, will you do it? You know what I mean? Will you make the
Mhm.
change? Will you clean up, your behaviors, and you're able to see more of yourself because you're at home more? You know what I mean? So all these things, I look at COVID like that.
Mhm.
So I don't have the fear mentality. I don't have the mentality that, oh my God, it's over, whatever the case may be. I am not looking at it like that. I'm looking at, as the universe, as the earth begins to evolve, we have to begin to change all the ways that we were doing things because they were not right. They
Mhm.
were not right. And so when I gave the example earlier about an extreme, of years of doing, this all the time, and
Mhm.
then, it gets to the space where now you're gonna do this, for 12
Right.
episodes, it's extreme. We were so far to the left that we have to go so far to the right, and when we have to go so far to the right, it seems like, oh my God, we're all gonna die, we're gonna burst into flames, whatever the case may be. But it had to go that far in order to correct itself. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So
Mhm.
I tend to look at COVID differently. And if, people can really, and I do a lot with astrology. I don't really call myself an astrologer, but I call myself a lifestrologist, where I talk about
Mhm.
astrology and I talk about how the planets affect you as a person. You are a mini universe. This
Mhm.
is, the microcosm, the universe itself. Everything that goes on outside goes on inside. Everything that goes on inside goes on outside. So all the stuff that's happening is because on an individual level, we're chaotic on the inside. We
Absolutely.
so it's, of course, it's going to show out in our external world. You know what I mean? So anyway.
And you're absolutely correct, because that's what I've been saying for a year. I said this pandemic has basically held up a mirror to everyone. This is your life. This is who you are. This is who you're surrounded by. Are you okay with this? And a
Mhm.
lot of people have said, "Oh, wait, no, I'm not. I have some work to do." And
Right.
so a lot of people have undergone a transformation, and we've seen it where people have birthed books, they have birthed new businesses, all kinds of new talents and skills where they were, I lost my job, and I always like to bake things, and now I own my own bakery or something like that. And so people have rediscovered themselves. They have slowed down. As a few people that I know always say, this has been the time that God has gotten everyone's attention
Mhm.
and said, okay, y'all sit down. Because as you said, everybody was running around, running from here to there, not paying attention, just doing everything. And when COVID hit, the world came to a halt. And just on a environmental basis, we see in certain parts of the world where in Venice, they were, I think it was the dolphins came back and or fish have come back. The water has cleared up. It's the clearest it's been in so many years. They can actually see. In New York, it was it, I don't remember what it was, but it was something sea related that has now come back into the harbor that hadn't been seen in decades because the environment, nature is cleaning itself. They said the air around the world is so much cleaner because people are all inside. And
Mhm.
so the whole energy that we've been putting out, we've been polluting ourselves. I don't think realizing that we're actually the contributors to our own demise.
Mhm. Very much so. Very much so. Um, you know, right now it has been said that, Mother Earth, there's so much stuff that we are doing to the planet itself, and that like someday she's gonna die or blow up or whatever the case may be. But Earth she is a living thing. And just like
Mhm.
we have to evolve, the Earth has to evolve as well. And as it is cleaning up itself, because it's the same thing as our bodies, it's able to clean up and take care of itself. It doesn't really need a whole lot of help. Just you eat right, you think
Mhm.
right. You know what I'm saying? You do all these things
Mhm.
that can contribute to a healthy body. The earth has the ability to do the same thing. And so
Mhm.
although yes, we are doing all these things to the earth, as you see, she is correcting it. She too is going through a state of balance as well.
Mhm. Mhm. So this has been a fascinating conversation, but I have one more question for you. So if someone was interested in embarking on this way of life where they're trying to find balance within themselves, within their chakras, they want to be rooted and grounded. They want to eat healthy. They want to ingest the right things in terms of television shows or news, not judging it, what anyone wants to watch, but just what works for them. What advice would you give them to get started on this journey?
The first thing, to be honest, what I would tell them is to get your natal chart done. Um, you
Mm-hmm.
can't really you can't really move about unless you understand the blueprint. And so in being
Okay.
able to understand the blueprint of who it is that you are, the power that you have behind you, because you know that your purpose is this,
Mm-hmm.
and you're supposed to do it this way.
Mm-hmm.
I say get your natal chart done. Once you get your natal chart done, you're able to put some things that you've been doing into perspective. Now you can understand why you do this particular thing. You can, a lot of things that you were looking at yourself as a negative because you have been told all yourself that it was a negative aspect. You can look at that and see the benefits of having it and understand that you were just using that incorrectly, or you wasn't using that particular gift in the best way that would help you to be able to move forward in a better way. So the thing I say to people is to get your chart done. When you get your chart done, when you're understanding, not only the behavior and the characteristics of who it is that you are, you'll begin to understand your dosha. You'll begin to understand, numerology as far as, what number that you fall into. If I'm a one, I know that I'm a leader. So now I understand why I'm always leading. That's because I was destined to be that. So to me, the first thing that you ever do is find out who you are, and that's going to tell you exactly who it is that you are. Help you with your body type. It's going to tell you the type of foods that you need to be eating for your body type. A lot of foods that we're eating are foods that they don't agree with us anyway, but we never realized
Mm-hmm.
understood why they didn't agree with us. It's because those are not foods that you're supposed to be eating. Your dosha is a different type where it's dry. You might need to be drinking more water. might need
Mhm.
to drink less water. You know, a lot of people think that, oh, we're supposed to drink all this water. It just depends on that person's body type. And all that has to do with being able to understand who you are as a person on a very small blueprint level. And so that would be
Okay.
the first thing that I would tell people to do.
Excellent. Okay, so what is a dosha? Because you said that twice, and I quite couldn't figure. I'm like, is that your body type? I wasn't sure.
Okay, so what a dosha is, it has to do with there's 4 different dosha types. There's vata, pitta, kapha, and there's pitta kapha. So those
Okay.
particular doshas, they're all about the energy, the elements. Most of us are
Mm,
made up of water, some of us are made up of fire, some of
mm,
us are made up of air, and you know the people who are made up of air because of their mentality. They're very intellectual. Your people who are made up of earth, more earth type of elements. They are the people who are, you'll say, down to earth. They're grounded, they're rooted. You know, you can tell people they're who the element that they actually are by their characteristics, their behaviors, and things of that nature. And a lot of people don't understand that knowing what your dosha is, knowing, you know, the element that you are, that you predominantly carry, then you won't know what are the best foods for you to eat, what are the best herbs for you to eat, you know, or to take into your body. All these things help the vessel to be the best. You came here as a spirit, you know, to come into this particular vessel. You don't even know, you know, how to care for the vessel. You don't even
mm-hmm.
know, you know, you know, the foods that would just make the vessel run, you know, smoother. That's like you going out here, your car is a Cadillac, and you putting low grade, you know, gas
Yeah.
in it, it runs differently. You know, if you have
Mm,
put the higher grade, you know, food in it, you know, then the body would run smoother, and you're able to think faster. You're able to, you know, grow more. You are able to catch the lessons faster. And you're able to move into different spaces, you know, faster, because you're being more, you know, you're eating the foods that you're supposed to eat, that would allow you to be on a different level, a higher level, or to vibrate in a higher way.
gotcha. Okay, so you said air and earth, but you didn't say anything about water. So I got to ask
Water,
you about.
yeah, it's water. The water is more emotional. Water, of course, is always emotional because it has depth to it. You know,
Mm,
water is not something that's superficial. If you stand over a puddle, sometimes you don't know how deep it is. You know what I'm saying? Just because you're looking on the outside. But you know, the water people are a more emotional type of people. They're more intuitive. They can
mm,
read you more. They can read the environment more. You know, they have a psychic ability, you know, type of thing.
mhm, mhm. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
So thank you, Kai, for coming on the Kim B. Davis Show. Tell us how we can find you. Tell us where we can reach you. Tell us your social media handle so we can follow you and learn more about all the different things that you do.
Thank you. Well, I won't go through all the different websites. I'll tell you the couple websites that are the most important at this particular state. And one of them is my personal website, which is kai-mann.com, and that's KAI-MANN.com. And the other website would be the lifestrologytoday.com website. And Lifestrology is spelled Lifestrology today.com. Social media, you can find me on Facebook, Kai Mann, Kaimann. On Instagram, it's Kaiology, Kaiology. Twitter is Kaiology. Everything else is Kaiology.
Excellent, excellent. Do you have an email address if people have questions, or should they just go directly to your website?
Um, Either one, they can go to the website. You can actually the best email to email me would be the lifestrology chart at
Mhm.
gmail.com. So it's
Okay.
LIFESTROLOGYCHART at gmail.com. So it's lifestrology chart at gmail.com.
Thank you, Kai, for being on the Kim B. Davis Show and talking to us about making that journey. We truly appreciate it. Hopefully, you'll come back on and give us some more information because I really want to talk about teas because you're doing some exciting things with teas, and so we got to talk about that on the next time.
Great. Thank you. I would love to come back on. I would love it. I enjoyed myself. Thank you so much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Thank you, Kai. Thank you guys for tuning into the Kim B. Davis Show. You know, you can find me, Kimberly Batchelor Davis, on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, Snapchat, and TikTok. Yes, I'm on all platforms. Bachelor is spelled BATCHELOR. You can find out more information at kimbdavis.com. You can also find this show, The Kim B. Davis Show, on youtube.com/Kimberly Batchelor Davis. And you can find us on Apple, Spotify, Google, and Stitcher. Thank you so much again for tuning in. And remember, as always, be magnificent.